Welcome to Chromatic Counsel podcast, the podcast where law, leadership, and color collide. I'm your host, Carrie Heaps, and I am so glad that you've tuned in today. Just a quick announcement. If you are an attorney who is located in Texas or in Florida, and you are duly licensed in both states, we have our digital TELS class that is now accredited in both states. So you get technical credit in Florida and MCLE credit in Texas. So we hope you can join us. We also have this available for you on demand to fit into your busy schedule. So I want to dive right into today's show, which I am very excited about today's guest. My guest today is Tiffany Obeng. She is an attorney, equal opportunity professional, and the author of more than 25 diverse picture books. Tiffany works at the intersection of law, storytelling, and professional credibility, and she's the founder of Sugar Cookie Books, which I love sugar cookies. She challenges us to see literacy not just as an educational issue, but as a long-term investment in equity, leadership, and our collective future. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.
Well, I'm just excited to have you here. I know we talked very briefly, and I was, as you can see in your background, you have all of these fabulous books, and I want to dive into that today. But I do want to ask you first and foremost, because you've built a career in law and institutional leadership. How did children's books become a central part of the mission? What's the story there?
Yes, so my central mission, I think I'll start there, is to help provide kids a future worth aspiring to. And so to do that, I want to try to keep kids in school. And to do that, I want to try to interest them. So I like to give this little background story of like how I ended up as a lawyer. Growing up, probably third or fourth grade, my mom said I should become a lawyer or a doctor, but I was not about to become a doctor. So lawyer, here I come, right? So I stayed in school. I did well in school because that's what I knew. All I knew was lawyers supposedly were really smart and you do really well in school. So I focused on doing really well in school, being smart, going to college, going to law school, and becoming a lawyer. But I did not meet a lawyer in real life until the 11th grade, so a year before graduating high school, and did not meet a lawyer who looked like me until law school. And that is just way too late. And so where children's books come in is that they can serve as my mom or any adult figure in their life in planting the seeds of if you can see it, you can be it early as 5 years old. And so I create a number of books, as you said, but the career books are the ones where it exposes children to their future possibilities as young as 5 years old, and they get to see diverse images of people. And so whether you're a diverse reader yourself or you're reading it, it's about belonging, it's about access, and it's about inspiration.
I love that. I love it. Now, can you explain your diverse books to talent pipeline theory? Because I wanted to ask you about that and why early literacy is actually a credibility, workforce, and leadership issue. And I think I kind of know part of this answer, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it from you.
So again, just have to start with the background. So the school to prison pipeline that everyone has probably heard of, a time of for many in their lives.
Yeah.
So as a basic refresher, the school to prison pipeline is essentially by the fourth grade. If you're deemed illiterate or any student who's considered illiterate, they're building a prison cell because the belief is, and the statistics support, that by sixth grade, they're dropping out of school. And so to combat that, I create the children's books, or I believe that children's books, especially those that are diverse, because those who make up the prison system are diverse populations. And so if I create the children's books featuring diverse populations, then hopefully we can get them reading, interested in reading, engaged in reading. So therefore they're becoming literate. Therefore they're staying in school. Therefore they're graduating from school. Therefore they're ending up in a talent pool. And that talent pool is going to be organically diverse. And the best meaning companies, or maybe the worst meaning companies, are going to pull from that rich, diverse talent pool and will be able to increase the numbers of representation in the workforce. So that's the theory.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I was actually watching, I think there was a YouTube documentary, and they were talking about the educational system and how a lot of teachers are now, they're saying that kids don't want to learn. Kids, there's so many different pinpoints that they'll bring up in the conversation. And I'm starting to see a little bit more about AI because some of the teachers are now saying that the kids, even you brought up fourth grade, which is interesting enough. There was a fourth grade teacher that said the kids are saying, why should I read this when I can have AI read it to me? I mean, what are your thoughts on AI? Do you feel like it's kind of a double-edged sword in this regard? Because I agree with you. I love if I had my choice to read something, like pick it up and read it, I would rather do that than read it on the screen or have it read to me. But that's me personally.
Yeah, so to piggyback on that, with another article that I recently read, it was in the UK, but they were just talking about the reading trends, like back in the 90s, if you will. I'm just going to go to the 90s, but I'm sure before that too. But back in the
Yeah.
90s, we had Dear, drop everything and read. So there was a real emphasis and push on reading and reading being fun and things like that. But now in the 2000s, particularly in the 2020s, reading is not being amplified as much. It's not cool. They're not doing drop everything and read. And so when you have less emphasis on reading, and then you have the uprising of AI that's making everything just seem so fun and cool and quick,
Hmm.
and you're not understanding the basics of. So me and my husband, I kind of have to segue. Me and my husband, we talk about all the time how AI can be beneficial in helping to assist, but you still have to have that knowledge base so you can know if it's assisting correctly, right?
Yeah.
So in the same way, if you don't know how to read or don't understand what you're reading, AI can spit out something and you're going to accept it as fact, but it may not be. And so it just takes away from the experience. In the author community, they recently rolled out, not the author community per se, but Amazon KDP recently rolled out a AI assistant reader or some sort, where for the ebook you can ask the AI bot, hey, what is this book about, or what happened to this character, and it will give you a summary. And so authors are posing that feature because it's like, this is a machine that is coming up with this summary, the thoughts of my characters that may not be what I really intended. So I wrote this book with a specific purpose, a specific story I was trying to tell, and now we have this machine manipulating my words. And so using AI responsibly, hopefully they'll become more of a campaign. We're going to have to live with AI. We've been living with
Yeah.
AI. But now with the uprising and the misuse and mishandling and irresponsibility surrounding it is really the true issue.
Yeah, and there was a gentleman I watched who testified, I think it was before Congress, and he has authored, I think, 75 books. And
Mm.
that was his main thing. He said it's taking away, from his copyright, even just as the basic copyright that he has for his
Right.
books. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think it's affecting, it seems everybody I've interviewed in the past 2 months AI has somehow gotten into the conversation with law, with books, with whatever intellectual property. So I want to ask you though, because from an attorney perspective, so attorneys are trained to argue facts, but not always to manage presence or storytelling, which I think that's a needed skill. Why are those skills increasingly becoming more critical in modern legal practice? Not just like in court in person, but now digital court, because it's, mediation, pretrial conferences, I mean, even sometimes the whole trial can be on Zoom.
Yeah, and so bringing up the digital aspect, I think definitely with social media and AI, but social media, the digital age has created this scrolling feature or effect. And so everyone on social media, or at least 99% of people on social media, are trying to stop the scroll, in the sense that, like, stop scrolling and look at what I'm presenting. And so one way, tried and true way of doing that, that's been around forever since the beginning of times, is storytelling
Mhm.
and using a story to stop, engage, and entertain people. And so, in the same way, and outside of the courtroom, using stories or structuring your message in a way that engages others. Engaging others, or speaking, knowing, understanding your audience, essentially,
Mhm.
like in the basic of forms. Storytelling
Yeah.
is understanding your audience, having characters, having a point of view, and having a plot. But you have to understand who. And so, at all times, as a lawyer, as an institutional leader, as whoever, you have to understand who your audience is and the message, the theme that you are conveying, and making sure that you're conveying it in a way that they can understand it and that they can relate to it. And so that's really my legal skills have transferred really well to becoming a children's book author. I hadn't thought about it until probably about a few years ago, because people were like, oh my gosh, how are you able to present these complex topics such as an engineer? Like Andrew learns
Mhm.
about engineers is about the engineering field. I'm not an engineer, obviously, I'm a lawyer. And so they're like, how are you able to convey these complex jobs or careers in a way that kids can easily understand it and digest it? And they're adult who's reading it with them. And I believe that comes from being a lawyer, being able to gather a lot of information, synthesize it, and figuring out the best way to present the information to the intended audience.
And I love that. And like I said, I see a lot of attorneys who kind of struggle with that aspect of the storytelling. And, especially like if they have to, like closing arguments, closing statements, or even opening statements and kind of painting that picture, so to speak. What parallels do you see between building trust with young readers, with children, and establishing credibility with senior leadership and decision makers, judges, juries?
So on. So they're almost all the same. That's what's so funny. But kids are a very tough crowd. And so one way to, did you say establish credibility and trust? One
Yeah.
way to do so with kids and senior leaders is by knowing who you are and being authentic in who you are. And so as a young attorney, that was really difficult for me, being honest here. It was really difficult for me to step into who I naturally was. It was like almost being performative. It's the imposter syndrome sitting in and things like that. And people can really sense it, if you're not sure of yourself, if you're not sure of what you're doing. And so understanding what your strengths are, understanding what your weaknesses are, and understanding your weaknesses doesn't make you weak. Like you don't have to be perfect to be a leader. You don't have to be perfect to influence people. It's about just being your true self, leaning on your strengths, understanding the story you're trying to convey to a kid or to a senior leader, understanding what questions a kid may have. What are they dealing with? What are their pain points? What are kids dealing with? Like
Mhm.
the readers that I write for are 5 to 8, 6 to 9. So what are 5 to 8 year olds, 6 to 9 year olds dealing with? What do they care about? What questions do they have? And how will they understand the explanation I have for them? Same thing with institutional leaders. Okay, so what questions do they have? What are their pain points? What's their limitations? And how can I present it in a way that they'll care about? Leaders
Mhm.
have little time. Same thing with kids. Like you only have a split second to get a kid's engagement before they're running off saying, let me go to the slides. And so establishing that quickly, having something worth looking at. So for a kid, it's going to begin with the cover, front cover, and you, if I'm there. And for the institutional leader, it may begin with that first sentence on your memo or with your presence if you're in person. And then starting the storytelling from an
Mhm.
honest standpoint.
Yeah. And you are right about children because somebody, I mean, back in the day, because I modeled many, many years ago, and then I got into the flip side of the modeling industry and I taught modeling and acting classes, and they would always put me in charge of the 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and people don't realize it's a tough audience. It's tough to keep their attention. You've got to make it fun, you got to make it interesting, you got to make sure that they're learning, and it can be a little overwhelming. But there's a lot of people that don't realize that. They don't know that kids are, like you said, it's a tough audience. So how can attorneys leverage storytelling responsibly? What tips would you offer them?
The tips I would offer is understanding your content. You have to understand what you're presenting. I keep saying that because it's so important. And if you don't understand what you're presenting, the person you're presenting to is not going to understand either. And you have to understand who you're presenting to, not just the first level, but all the levels that it may go to. Or say you win the lottery, you like to joke about this at work. I might win the lottery tomorrow, so I need this memo, this letter, this report to stand on its own. Whoever picks it up after me, I need them to understand what was happening here. And so you do it by understanding your content, understanding your audience, being accurate, and being fair and objective. And I know that kind of sounds counterintuitive depending on what type of law you do, but it really isn't. And I think back to when we were in law school and we did IRAC analysis or IRAC. So using that as like your framework to tell a story, always understanding what that issue is, which can be like a theme of a story. What's the
Hmm.
issue and what's the rule, the policy, the law that goes along with that issue? And then your analysis needs to include facts and the relevant facts. And that's where storytelling really becomes, that's where you can break or make your story by
Hmm.
including relevant facts or irrelevant facts. Irrelevant facts are like red herrings. They're going to send people all over the place. But if you
Hmm.
understand what your issue is and you understand what your rule is, and you're going to know what facts you need to prove or disprove the case, and presenting all the facts is not going to necessarily make you not win or have someone see your side of the story, because what happens is when you're honest, you're presenting all the relevant facts in a honest way, we're all going to get to the same conclusion,
Hmm.
or we can.
Yeah.
And so that's how you can do it responsibly, just being fact forward, accurate in your facts, and objective.
Yeah. And it's interesting because everybody talks about like with law school that I hear from so many people, they're like the main thing or two main things they don't teach was is marketing. Like, you have to go out there and market yourself and the storytelling aspect that they focus so much on the facts and getting, just kind of,
Um,
so those are, I mean, hopefully that will change in the future, that maybe they'll start putting a little bit more of that into the curriculum. And I do want to ask you, because since we've been talking about storytelling, and I don't know if you are going to answer this or not, but I've got to know because I see all the great, beautiful children's books in the background. You've written what, 25, right?
well, I'm on the 27th.
27. Okay. So out of the ones that you have written so far, do you have one that's like, oh my gosh, this is my all-time favorite?
I know, right? So I don't have one that's my favorite per se, but I will say that the series or collection that's near and dear to my heart, and the reason I keep going every single day, is the Andrew Learns About Career book series.
Mhm.
Because, like I said earlier, I want to be able to be the mom to someone else, or the, hope y'all can see it with my background, this little statue,
Yeah.
like the
Uh-huh.
content
I can
creators.
see it. Yeah.
Okay, so my mom bought me that. I was
Oh.
very young. It's a U.S. attorney, U.S. district attorney sitting at her desk. And you see here, she's a Black female, right?
Hmm.
That was inspirational. So I want my books to be like inspirational for whoever picks it up. Whether you want, right now we only have 7 because I'm just one person writing. But and so they explore actors, teachers, lawyers, engineers, scientists, chefs, and architects.
Hmm.
And so being able to inspire, educate, and hopefully diversify the future workforces is really near and dear to my heart. And
Hmm.
in the same vein, I started working on beginner chapter books. This collection is called Fairy Tale Verses. So what I do is take classic fairy tales and insert a legal twist. And so the first book was The Three Pigs versus the Wolf. And the three pigs were suing the wolf for blowing down their homes. And then the book that's about to come out, which is going to make my 27th, 26th, or 27th, is Goldilocks versus the Three Bears. So yes, Goldilocks and
Oh,
the Bears.
I love it. I love it. And I can't agree with you more. I think the one thing I don't like about our educational system is that they put so much pressure on, a kid graduates from high school and they're like, okay, now you got to go to college and pick what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And they haven't had the exposure to, they don't know. And I have always done like I used to have an internship program, and that was part of what I would do is I would have the interns, I'm like, what do you want to learn? Because, if I can't teach you or talk to you about it, then I'm going to find somebody who can. Because I would have so many people who would go, they're like, yeah, I went to school. They have engineering degrees. Some of them went to, like one of them almost went to med school and was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't really know what I want to do, but I know this isn't it. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you've spent all this money and and it's like the one lady I spoke with that had an engineering degree, she decided she wanted to go back into, she liked social media,
Mm-hmm.
and she could not even get a job as an intern because she had no experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
But she had this engineering degree and like 80, $90,000 in debt. And I'm like, this is not fair. It's not fair. I
Yeah.
mean, I think they should, again, I love, like, again, I love how that you're putting this into the story, like an architect or a lawyer, and letting them kind of experience a little bit about what that might be like. So I'm kudos
Yes.
to you for doing that. But, as you know, the show is called Chromatic Counsel. So I love to ask all of my guests, Is there a color that you intentionally wear, whether it's, for leadership, uh, things, maybe you're speaking or doing media stuff or investigations or author events because of how it makes you feel or how you want others to, kind of receive you? Do you have some colors that are go-to or wardrobe pieces that you're like, hey, this is my power suit?
It's so funny because of like since being in the post 2020, we're at home, so t-shirts are pretty much all I wear. But a color that I really do like, and I like it on my skin, is pink. I love like a not the real what is it? It's not like a light pale, like the more vibrant pink. So I
Like
like it
carnation pink.
like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I like those. I gravitate toward pink a lot. I gravitate toward a wine or purple color on the side.
Hmm.
Like which way? But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
like
can
a wine
I
or
can
purple
see it.
color.
Yeah. Oh, those are
Um,
nice too.
and I also like a rusty orange, like for fall especially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love all of those colors. And pink's one of the most soothing colors anybody can wear. And I think that's probably really good, when you're around kids,
Mm-hmm.
especially because it's kind of like a nice, calming, relax, and non-threatening color to wear. So yeah, I always love to ask that question.
Yes.
So what responsibility do attorneys, institutions, publishers have in helping more move literacy rates back into the black, so to speak?
Yes. So for publishers, if we're trying, again, the literacy rates amongst diverse populations is where it's like really, really poor, right? So to combat that, again, I believe simply, I know it's probably simplifying it too much, but I believe if we can start with presenting and providing books that the diverse populations will relate to, engage with, and want to engage with, can really help move the needle of the literacy. And so
Mhm.
publishers, they're starting to put our colorful faces on their covers, but they're still written by people that do not represent the characters on the covers. And so problematic in itself, but like amplify our voices and our voices. So it can be a genuine, and I'm not saying other groups can't write about other groups. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying there's enough diverse populations of writers who want to write the stories and can really relate to the diverse populations about their experiences, their lives authentically. And then the kid can say, hey, that looks like me and I want to read about it. I've had kids run up to my tables or booths at events and say, hey, this looks like me, or this has my name on the cover. And they pick it up and start running off. And I say, okay, well, parent, now you got to pay for it. So just do so that's one way for, and then for lawyers, leaders, parents, adults, I think it's really quite simple. Just read with your kid. Like make it an effort to pick up books that are cross-sectional. Like they have their best books list out there, and typically it's kind of the same. You might have one or two, but picking up a book about careers, whether it has Andrew is the name of my son, and that's his likeness. But whether it has a black boy and a character on a cover or not, like it's just about the career. It's not about anything else. It's just literally about who are these people, and what do they do? And so, picking up books, reading with your child. I want adults, leaders, organizational leaders to think about the pipeline programs. I think you hit on it a second ago, but our pipeline programs like high school, like you
Mhm.
said. So they start in high school. And remember, I met my first lawyer in 11th grade. And so if I hadn't already had it planted in me that I might be a lawyer, then meeting that person in 11th grade, was that going to really do anything? That was so late. And so
Mhm.
I'm trying to really get people to understand that we have to start our pipelines as early as possible, like in elementary before fourth grade, because remember, they're falling out in fourth grade,
Yeah.
or becoming illiterate in fourth grade and falling out in sixth grade. So starting our pipeline program, targeting kids 5, 6 years old, like they can handle it. Like they can understand what we're trying to teach them. They may not be court or anything, but they are able to understand the concepts. And again, using my beginner chapter book, they understand the concept of listening to all sides. They understand the concept of being objective, not coming to conclusions. Because of course, if you have the three pigs and the wolf, and we know the story that the
Mhm.
wolf is guilty, right? But it's taking them through, and that's not how the story actually goes, but taking them through like being objective, listening to all sides before making decisions. Kids can understand those concepts. So exposing them to books that are maybe not on the bestsellers list
Yeah.
by diverse populations, amplifying our voices, and thinking about establishing pipeline programs much earlier, elementary.
And for any of the attorneys that are listening that are like, gosh, I've been toying around with writing a book, whether it's a children's book or something fiction, nonfiction, do you have a piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, just do it. Get it out of your head and get it onto paper or your screen, or however you write. So, the first step is always when people say, "Hey, I want to write a book," I say, "Okay, well, write, write it
Yeah.
down."
So do it. What's stopping you? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I know something that I had to overcome early on. I'm a lawyer. I didn't get an English degree or a writing degree or whatever those things may be called. I don't even know if they have a writing degree out there, but I know they have English degrees. But it's like, it's okay. That's why they have editors,
Yeah.
they have people that can assist you. So just get your idea out, write it down, write, and then worry about the rest later.
Yeah, and it never has to be perfect. I used to have people who would send me books to do reviews for, whatever show I was doing or hosting or if I was doing some writing. And it amazed me how many were you'd find a typo in there. Like
Oh,
even
really?
after all of the editorial stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So it never has to be perfect, So I think that's great advice. So is there anything you'd like to share with us, Tiffany, just kind of in closing, as far as things you have coming up, any book signings or anything like that that you'd like to share?
Oh, sure. Let me think. So I will just leave my socials here. I know they're going to probably be in the notes, but
Mhm.
you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook at Sugar Cookie Books. And I know people like to say, why Sugar Cookie Books? And in a summation, you can see it on my website at sugarcookiebooks.com. I just wanted something that could resonate with people. I'm doing children's books, and so I didn't like chocolate chip. I don't like chocolate chip cookies like that. I like
Yeah.
sugar cookies. And
Oh, me too.
so
Me too.
And so I was like, they're just as popular as chocolate chip cookies. You
Yeah.
can see them everywhere. They're familiar. Adults, children love it. It's
Mhm.
timeless. So that's what Sugar Cookie Books is all about. So yeah, sugarcookiebooks.com. You can also go to tiffanyobeng.com. Upcoming events. I have some vendor events coming up, but I'm local. I'm in Houston, Texas. So they're in Houston. If you're in Houston, they're coming up in February and in March, so far at least. And I don't know, subscribe to my newsletter and I'll keep you abreast.
Okay, well, good. That's good to know. And yes, I will have those links. They're in the show notes, so you can click on any of those below to get in contact with Tiffany or to purchase any of the books. So I want to thank you again so much for your time today. It's been an absolute joy having you on the show. And again, I just love when attorneys are doing something artistic, as well, that we can feature because, you can still be an attorney and do other stuff. And
Yes,
I think this really showcased that. So thank you so much for your time today.
you're welcome. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And if what Tiffany shared resonates with you, I hope you will hit the like button, hit subscribe so you know when we drop another episode of Chromatic Counsel. And if you're an attorney who would like to be interviewed on the show, there's a link in the show notes below, so you can click on that to apply to be considered as a guest. I hope that you can tune in next time. And as always, we're wishing you continued success.